Balochistan, a land shrouded in mystery and scarred by conflict, stands as a testament to the enduring power of ethnic nationalism and the complexities of post-colonial nation-building. This region, straddling the borders of Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan, has long been a hotbed of separatist sentiment. Its history, a tumultuous tapestry woven with threads of rebellion, repression, and unfulfilled promises. At the heart of the conflict lies the Baloch people's struggle for autonomy and control over their ancestral lands, a struggle that has pitted them against the Pakistani state for over 7 decades. The seeds of discord were sown in 1948, when Balochistan, after a brief period of independence, was forcibly incorporated into Pakistan. This annexation, met with fierce resistance by Baloch nationalists, marked the beginning of a long and bloody conflict that continues to this day. The Baloch, with their distinct language, culture, and history, have long felt marginalized within Pakistan, their grievances stemming from a perceived lack of political representation, economic exploitation, and cultural suppression. Over the decades, the Balochistan conflict has morphed and mutated, assuming various forms, from peaceful protests and political movements to armed insurgency and terrorist attacks. The discovery of vast mineral resources in Balochistan, including natural gas, copper, and gold, has further fueled the conflict, with the Baloch accusing the Pakistani government of exploiting their resources while neglecting their basic needs. This sense of injustice and exploitation has driven many Baloch youth into the arms of separatist groups who promise liberation from what they perceive as Pakistani oppression. The Balochistan conflict is not merely a domestic issue for Pakistan, but has wider regional and international implications. The region's strategic location, bordering Afghanistan and Iran, and its proximity to vital shipping lanes in the Arabian Sea make it a geopolitical hotspot. The presence of foreign powers vying for influence and control over the region's resources has further complicated the conflict, turning Balochistan into a pawn in a larger geopolitical chess game. At the forefront of the Baloch insurgency stands the Balochistan Liberation Army, a shadowy organization designated as a terrorist group by Pakistan, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Formed in the early 2000s, the BLA has waged a relentless campaign of violence against Pakistani security forces, government installations, and symbols of Pakistani authority. Their tactics, ranging from guerrilla warfare to suicide bombings, have instilled fear in the hearts of many and brought the Balochistan conflict to international attention. The BLA claims to fight for the independence of Balochistan from Pakistan, advocating for a sovereign Baloch state encompassing all Baloch majority areas. They portray themselves as freedom fighters, struggling to liberate their people from Pakistani oppression and exploitation. However, their violent tactics, often targeting civilians and infrastructure, have drawn widespread condemnation, blurring the lines between liberation struggle and terrorism. The BLA's ideology is a potent cocktail of Baloch nationalism, anti-Pakistani sentiment, and a yearning for self-determination. They accuse the Pakistani state of being an occupying force, intent on subjugating the Baloch people and plundering their resources. They point to the underdevelopment, poverty, and lack of basic services in Balochistan as evidence of Pakistani neglect and discrimination. The Pakistani government, however, views the BLA as a terrorist organization bent on destabilizing the country and undermining its territorial integrity. They accuse the BLA of receiving foreign support, alleging that external actors are using the Balochistan conflict to further their geopolitical interests. The government has responded to the BLA's insurgency with a heavy hand, launching military operations, arresting suspected militants, and imposing restrictions on media coverage of the conflict. Balochistan presents a paradox, a land endowed with vast natural resources, yet plagued by chronic poverty, underdevelopment, and economic disparity. This stark contrast between resource wealth and human misery lies at the heart of the Balochistan conflict, fueling resentment and driving a wedge between the Baloch people and the Pakistani state. Despite being home to substantial reserves of natural gas, minerals, and a strategically important coastline, Balochistan remains Pakistan's least developed province. Decades of neglect, mismanagement, and corruption have left the province with crumbling infrastructure, inadequate healthcare and education systems, and limited economic opportunities. The Baloch people, who make up the majority of the province's population, bear the brunt of this deprivation, trapped in a cycle of poverty and marginalization. The Baloch accuse the Pakistani government of deliberately neglecting their province, siphoning off their resources to enrich other parts of the country while leaving them languishing in poverty. They point to the lack of basic amenities such as clean drinking water, electricity, and proper sanitation as evidence of their plight. The absence of industries and employment opportunities has forced many Baloch to rely on subsistence farming or migrate to other provinces in search of work, fueling a sense of displacement and resentment. The Pakistani government, while acknowledging the development challenges faced by Balochistan, argues that it has made significant investments in the province's infrastructure, education, and health sectors. They point to the construction of new roads, dams, and power plants as evidence of their commitment to improving the lives of the Baloch people. However, critics argue that these development projects are often driven by political expediency rather than genuine concern for the welfare of the Baloch people, and that the benefits of development rarely trickle down to the grassroots level. Section 4. The Pakistani government's response, a delicate balancing act. The Pakistani government's response to the Balochistan conflict has been a delicate balancing act, seeking to address security concerns while simultaneously pursuing development initiatives and engaging in political dialogue. However, this multi-pronged approach has been met with mixed results, often criticized for being heavy-handed, lacking transparency, and failing to address the root causes of the conflict. On the security front, the Pakistani military has launched a series of operations against Baloch insurgents, seeking to dismantle their networks, disrupt their activities, and restore order in the province. However, these military operations have often been accompanied by allegations of human rights abuses, extrajudicial killings, and enforced disappearances, further alienating the Baloch population and fueling resentment against the Pakistani state. Recognizing that military solutions alone cannot bring lasting peace to Balochistan, the Pakistani government has also implemented a number of development projects aimed at improving the socio-economic conditions of the province. These projects include the construction of new roads, dams, power plants, and schools, as well as the provision of financial assistance and scholarships to Baloch students. In addition to development initiatives, the Pakistani government has also engaged in sporadic attempts at political dialogue with Baloch nationalist leaders. These efforts, however, have been hampered by a lack of trust, with both sides accusing the other of insincerity and a reluctance to compromise. The Baloch demand greater autonomy, control over their resources, and an end to human rights abuses, while the Pakistani government insists on maintaining the country's territorial integrity. Section 5. Human Rights Concerns, a Shadow over Balochistan. Looming over the Balochistan conflict is the specter of human rights violations, casting a long shadow over the region and hindering efforts at reconciliation. Both sides have been accused of committing atrocities, fueling a cycle of violence and impunity that has left countless innocent people caught in the crossfire. Balochistan has become a black hole for human rights, with enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, torture, and arbitrary detentions reported with alarming frequency. Human rights organizations accuse Pakistani security forces of carrying out these abuses with impunity, targeting suspected Baloch militants, their sympathizers, and even ordinary citizens. The Baloch people live in a climate of fear, afraid to speak out against the authorities or even discuss the conflict openly, lest they become the next victims of enforced disappearance. The Pakistani government, while denying allegations of systematic human rights abuses, acknowledges that some excesses may have occurred in the heat of counterinsurgency operations. They insist that the security forces are committed to upholding human rights and that any personnel found guilty of abuses are held accountable. However, the lack of transparency and accountability surrounding such cases has fueled skepticism and distrust among the Baloch population. The Baloch insurgents, too, have been implicated in human rights violations, targeting civilians, attacking infrastructure, and carrying out kidnappings and killings. Their actions, often justified in the name of liberation, have instilled fear and insecurity among the local population, further complicating the conflict and hindering efforts at peace building. Section 6. The Path to Peace. Dialogue, reconciliation, and a shared future. The path to peace in Balochistan is fraught with obstacles, a treacherous journey through a landscape scarred by decades of violence, mistrust, and broken promises. However, amidst the despair, glimmers of hope persist, offering a faint but discernible light at the end of the tunnel. A lasting solution to the Balochistan conflict requires a multifaceted approach, one that addresses the historical grievances, political aspirations, and economic anxieties of the Baloch people. Military solutions, while necessary to contain violence and maintain order, cannot bring about genuine and lasting peace. Dialogue, sincere and inclusive, is the cornerstone of any sustainable peace process. The Pakistani government must engage with Baloch nationalist leaders, including those associated with armed groups, in a meaningful and good faith effort to address their legitimate grievances. This dialogue must be conducted in an atmosphere of trust and mutual respect, with a willingness to compromise and find common ground. Addressing the economic marginalization of Balochistan is crucial for long-term peace and stability. The Pakistani government must prioritize the development of the province, ensuring that the benefits of economic growth reach the grassroots level and empower the Baloch people. This includes investing in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and creating employment opportunities for the Baloch youth. The international community, too, has a role to play in fostering peace in Balochistan. By using their diplomatic leverage, international actors can encourage dialogue, facilitate confidence-building measures, and provide technical and financial assistance for development projects. They can also help monitor the human rights situation in the province and hold both sides accountable for their actions.